All right, so you wanted to really unpack this one, huh?
Oh, yeah, Mark chapter 15.
The crucifixion.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's a dense one.
It is.
Emotionally and detail-wise.
I feel like every time I read through this, I pick up something new.
Right, and it's interesting thinking about the political and social climate, too.
Oh, absolutely.
At the time.
Like, all of that's wrapped up in this pivotal event.
Absolutely. And it's not just a dry, kind of blow by blow.
Right.
It's very evocative.
It is,
and it draws you in.
So we start out, very early in the morning with Jesus being handed over to Pontius Pilate, who, of course, is the Roman governor by the Sanhedrin, which is basically the Jewish high court.
Right. The Jewish authority at the time.
And already right there, we see this clash between, like, two systems of power.
You can't downplay the Sanhedrin.
Right.
They had a lot of us.
Well, in the Jewish community.
Yeah, but under Roman rule, they were limited.
Yeah.
So they needed Pilate.
Right.
To carry this out.
To actually do it. And they bring a very specific charge against Jesus.
Yeah.
Claiming to be King of the Jews.
Right.
Now, I can see from a Roman perspective why that would raise some eyebrows.
Yeah. That's a challenge.
That's a direct challenge.
To their authority.
Yeah. And then it's really interesting because instead of denying it.
Right.
Jesus kind of confirms it.
Yeah, to Pilate.
To Pilate, but it's almost like...
It's like they're speaking two different languages.
Yeah.
And Pilate's just kind of...
He's confused.
What do I do with this?
Yeah, so it makes his next move, I think, even more puzzling.
Right.
Where he tries to use this custom of releasing a prisoner...
Yeah, during the feast.
...to free Jesus. He even brings out Barabbas.
Right.
This prisoner who was involved in an uprising.
An insurrection.
Yeah, almost as like a counterpoint.
Right, like, look, this is the kind of guy we crucify.
This is who we usually crucify.
Not this guy.
Not this guy. And then this is where Mark gives us this fascinating little insight into Pilate's character, where he explicitly tells us that Pilate knew that the chief priests handed Jesus over.
Out of envy.
Out of envy.
Which is huge.
It's almost like a side comment from Mark.
Yeah.
But it changes everything.
It changes everything.
Doesn't it?
Because now Pilate's not just a pawn.
Right.
In this, he's not just going along with it.
He knows.
He knows their motivations.
And still chooses to appease them.
Which makes you really question.
What does that say about him?
Yeah.
Was he afraid?
Yeah.
Was he just like, whatever?
Did he just not care?
Yeah, it really
makes you question his role in all of this.
Totally.
And of course you have the crowd.
Yeah.
Who was fueled by the chief priests. Demanding Barabbas' release.
Yeah, free Barabbas.
And calling for Jesus to be crucified.
Crucify him. You can practically hear the shouts.
Right.
Echoing, through history.
It's mob mentality.
It is.
At its finest or worst, I guess.
At its worst, and despite his hesitation, Pilate caves.
He gives in.
Chooses the easier path.
Yeah.
Even if it means sacrificing.
Even if it means...
An innocent man.
Yeah.
So the stage is set for this brutal scene.
Yeah.
The mocking of Jesus.
By the Roman soldiers.
By the Roman soldiers.
They dress him up?
Yeah, they dress him up in a purple robe.
Yeah, like a parody.
A twisted parody of royalty.
The royalty, yeah.
Crown him with thorns. And kneel before him.
Pretending to worship.
Pretending to worship.
Mark doesn't hold back on the details here.
He describes them striking Jesus.
Spitting on him.
Shouting insults.
It's hard to read.
It is.
And it's there.
It shows the depths of their cruelty.
And how they viewed him.
As like a powerless figure.
Right. Somebody to just be mocked.
To be ridiculed.
Yeah. And
it's almost like they're trying to strip him of any dignity.
To show everyone, look, he's nothing.
Yeah.
He's nothing.
And then begins the journey to Golgotha.
To the place of the skull.
The place of the skull. And here, Mark throws in this seemingly, like, random detail.
Random detail.
About Simon of Cyrene.
Yeah.
Being forced to carry the cross. Why even mention him?
It could just be matter of fact.
Right.
Carrying the cross was common.
Yeah.
They would often just grab
somebody
out of the crowd.
Out of the crowd to do it. But then Mark mentions
that
Simon
is the father of Alexander and Rufus.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if those names meant something to the early church.
To the early Christians.
Maybe they were prominent figures.
But, like, why mention it otherwise?
Yeah, maybe they were the ones telling this story. Who knows?
But suddenly, it's not just something that happened.
In the past.
It's real people.
It's a story.
Yeah.
With real people behind it.
It definitely personalizes the narrative.
Yeah, like Mark is giving us a glimpse into the early church, reminding us that these weren't just abstract events. They involved real lives.
Absolutely.
So they arrive at Golgotha.
Yeah.
And the crucifixion takes place. Mark, again, gives us these vivid, even graphic details. The nailing to the cross, the dividing of his clothes, the inscription placed above his head.
The King of the Jews.
Mockingly proclaiming him King of the Jews. Right?
Which again...
That inscription, though meant as mockery, really highlights the political of this whole event.
This is about power.
For the Romans, this was a clear message.
Yeah.
Don't challenge our authority.
Not mess with Rome.
This is what happens.
This is what happens.
And all around, we see these different reactions
to
the crucifixion.
People watching.
Some mocking.
Some challenging him.
Some challenging Jesus to save himself.
Yeah.
Some just watching in silence.
Yeah, look, what's going on here?
Even the two criminals crucified alongside him. Join in the verbal abuse.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that people react to events like this in different ways. Some see a threat.
Some an opportunity to just,
to ridicule. Yeah. And some perhaps see something else entirely. Then at noon, darkness descends over the land, lasting until 3 p.m.
It's such a powerful image.
It is.
And I open to different interpretations.
Yeah. How do we make sense of this?
Right. Was it a natural phenomenon?
Yeah. Solar eclipse?
Or was it a sign of divine judgment?
Yeah. But regardless of how you interpret it.
So the drama and the weight of the events unfolding. Yeah. And then comes, I think,
one of the most heart-wrenching moments. In the whole chapter. Jesus' cry.
Eloi, Eloi lema sabachthani.
My God, why have you forsaken me?
It's a cry of utter despair.
It is.
Feeling abandoned.
Yeah.
Even by God.
I think it's incredibly important because it shows us his humanity. Yeah. He's not just this stoic figure enduring suffering without emotion.
Emotionless.
He's fully experiencing
he's present.
The pain, the anguish.
The
fear of this moment.
Right. And that's something I think we can all relate to.
Yeah.
We all have those moments where we just feel
alone, abandoned, questioning everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the bystanders misunderstand his cry.
They think he's calling for Elijah.
Yeah,
and then someone gives
him sour wine.
Sour wine on a sponge.
It's almost
like darkly comedic.
Yeah.
This misunderstanding.
Yeah.
This random act of kindness.
Yeah.
Or what they think is kindness.
Right.
It just adds to the realism.
Yeah.
The chaos of it all.
And then finally.
It
happens.
Yeah.
Jesus cries out again.
Breathes his last.
Yeah. And at that moment. Something extraordinary occurs.
The curtain
of the temple. Is torn in two. From top to bottom. This is a huge moment, right?
This is huge because the curtain separated. The Holy of Holies.
Right.
The most sacred part of the temple.
Where God's presence. Was believed to dwell. From the rest of the sanctuary.
Right.
Only the high priest.
Could go in there.
Could enter.
Once a year.
On the Day of Atonement.
But
the fact that it's torn in two.
Right.
From top to bottom.
Like God himself.
Yeah.
Ripped it.
It's like something has fundamentally shifted.
It's like a visual representation of the barrier between humanity and God.
Being torn down. It's a moment that demands interpretation. Does it mean that God's presence is now accessible to all? Does it symbolize the end of the old covenant? And the beginning of something new? It's definitely a moment that leaves you with more questions
than answers.
And it's followed by another powerful reaction. The Roman centurion,
standing
there, witnessing the whole thing, declares, truly, this man was God's son.
Now that's unexpected.
All right. Here you have a Roman soldier.
A representative of Rome.
A representative of the occupying power.
Yeah, occupying power.
Recognizing something. Extraordinary.
Extraordinary in Jesus.
In Jesus, it's like a seed of faith being planted in the most unlikely of places.
I mean,
I think it hints at the impact
that this
event will have.
Yeah.
How it will spread. Beyond the Jewish community.
To the ends of the earth.
Yeah. Really makes you think. You know how the message of Jesus, this idea of power through humility and sacrifice, could resonate with someone from a completely different culture, like a different worldview.
Yeah, and it speaks to, I think, the universality of certain human experiences.
Yeah.
The search for meaning.
Yeah.
The search for a connection.
For something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And amidst all this chaos and brutality, Mark doesn't forget about the women.
Oh, yeah.
Who have been following Jesus.
Right.
He mentions Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, Mary Magdalene.
Mary, the mother of James the Younger.
Yeah.
And Jose and Salome.
Yeah, they're watching from a distance.
They had followed him from Galilee.
Their presence is so important.
Oh, it's huge.
I mean, it would have been so easy.
Easy to disappear.
Yeah, to just blend back into the crowd.
Especially given the danger.
Especially at this point.
Of being associated with him.
But they stay.
They stay.
Bearing witness to this horrific event.
It's a testament to their loyalty.
Yeah.
Their courage, their faith.
They represent that silent strength of those who loved and supported Jesus throughout his ministry.
And their role doesn't end there.
No.
They'll become key figures.
In the story of the resurrection.
The ones who discover the empty tomb.
Yeah, but for now.
But for now, they're simply present.
They're there.
Absorbing the weight of what's happening.
Then we come to the burial of Jesus.
Yeah.
And this is where another interesting character steps in. Joseph of Arimathea.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
But he goes to Pilate boldly and asks for Jesus's body.
It's a surprising move.
It is.
To say the least.
Here's a man who's part of the very council that condemned Jesus.
Yeah. And yet he risks his reputation.
His standing, everything.
Everything to give him a proper burial.
What was going through his mind?
Yeah, I mean, what did he see or hear that led him to this?
Yeah, what led him to this act of defiance?
Maybe he had been questioning things all along.
Yeah.
Maybe he had doubts.
About the Sanhedrin's decision.
Yeah. Or maybe witnessing the crucifixion itself.
Yeah.
The darkness.
Yeah.
The centurion's declaration.
Shook him to his core.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason, his actions speak volumes.
Yeah.
He's a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, there are those who choose compassion and stand up for what they believe is right.
And it's worth noting that Pilate seems surprised.
He seems surprised.
By Joseph's request.
By the request?
He even double checks with the centurion.
To make sure Jesus is actually dead.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's so surprised?
Well, it could be he's surprised by Joseph's boldness.
Yeah.
His willingness to identify with Jesus so openly.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's surprised by how quickly Jesus died.
Okay.
Crucifixion was usually a slow and agonizing death.
Yeah.
And the fact that it happened so quickly might have raised some questions for him.
Yeah.
Maybe even some doubts.
About what he had done.
Yeah.
So Joseph takes Jesus' body.
Wraps it in linen.
Lays it in a tomb.
Cut out a rock.
He seals the entrance.
With a large stone.
And Mary Magdalene.
And Mary, the mother of Joses.
Are they watching?
Again, their presence as witnesses is significant.
Yeah.
They're the ones who will return to the tomb.
On the third day. And discover that it's empty. It's like Mark is subtly setting the stage for what's to come. Reminding us that even though this chapter ends in sorrow and darkness, there's something more on the horizon.
There's something more.
This whole chapter is just so powerful.
It is.
It's a whirlwind of emotion.
From the betrayal,
the condemnation, the brutality of the crucifixion.
The unexpected acts of compassion.
And faith. And it ends with this sense of anticipation.
This feeling that even though death seems to have the final word, something else is stirring beneath the surface.
Yeah, it's incredible how much he manages to pack into, just a few verses.
Yeah.
It's not just the events themselves.
Right.
But the reactions.
The emotion.
The lingering questions that he leaves us with.
It's like he's inviting us to look beyond the surface.
Yeah.
To grapple with the deeper implications.
Yeah. And he doesn't give us all the answers.
Right.
But he provides enough.
To spark our own reflections.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that moment when the temple curtain is torn in two.
Oh, yeah.
What a powerful symbol. It's like a physical manifestation of that barrier between humanity and God being broken down. But what does that actually mean?
Right.
How do we make sense of it?
It's resonated with people for centuries.
I could see why.
It raises these fundamental questions about our relationship with God.
Yeah. Does it mean that access to God is now open to everyone?
Right.
Does it signify the end of the old sacrificial system?
The beginning of a new covenant.
Yeah, one based on grace and forgiveness.
Yeah, it's challenging us.
It's like Mark is challenging us.
To re-examine our own beliefs.
Yeah, to consider the possibility of a more direct and personal connection with God.
Yeah, and that's a theme. It is a radical concept, especially back then.
Especially in the context of the time. Yeah, and you see that throughout Mark.
Yeah.
Jesus constantly challenging the religious establishment.
Their interpretations of the law.
Yeah, their ideas about who's in and who's out.
His message is one of inclusivity,
radical love, and acceptance.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
Right.
And then you have that incredible moment with the Roman centurion. Truly, this man was God's son.
I mean, talk about an unexpected declaration coming from a representative
of the occupying power.
Yeah, someone who would have viewed Jesus as a threat. To Roman authority.
And yet,
it really speaks to the power. Of Jesus' life and death.
Of his life and death.
The impact it had.
On those who witnessed it.
Even those who were supposed to be his enemies.
His enemies?
They were struck by something. Extraordinary.
Something that transcended their cultural and religious biases.
Right.
It makes you wonder what the centurion actually saw.
What did he see?
What did he feel? That led him to that conclusion.
Right. What did he recognize in Jesus that others missed?
Yeah, maybe he saw strength in his suffering.
Yeah, a willingness to endure it.
Yeah, a willingness to endure pain and humiliation for others.
For the sake of others, yeah.
Maybe he was struck by Jesus' compassion.
Even in his final moments.
Praying for those who are crucifying him. Yeah, that's powerful.
But whatever it was, it's clear that the centurion...
He had a profound experience.
Yeah, an experience that challenged his assumptions.
Yeah.
Opened him up.
To a new understanding.
Of who Jesus truly was.
Yeah. I think that's one of the key takeaways from this whole chapter. Even in the darkest of times.
Yeah.
Even in the face of unimaginable suffering.
Injustice.
There can be moments of grace.
Glimpses of hope.
And these unexpected conversions.
Yeah, it's a story that reminds us
that change is possible.
That hearts can be transformed.
Yeah.
And that even those who seem the most unlikely can come to recognize the truth. Well, this has been incredible.
This has been great.
It's given me so much to think about.
Me too.
So many new insights into this familiar story.
Yeah, it reminds me.
It's a reminder that the Bible isn't just a collection of ancient texts.
Right.
It's a living, breathing document that continues to speak to us.
Across the centuries.
Yeah. And it's a story that invites us to keep digging deeper.
To keep wrestling with these questions.
Yeah, to allow ourselves be transformed by its message.
Of love, hope, redemption.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage you to keep reflecting on the story of Jesus' crucifixion. What parts resonated with you the most? What questions or challenges did it raise for you? How does this story impact your understanding of faith suffering and the human condition?
Great questions.
I think you'll find that the more you explore it, the more it will continue to unfold and reveal new layers of meaning.
It will.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On this incredible journey.